1538, Sir Thomas, Duke of Norfolk, wrote in a letter to Chief Minister Cromwell, "You can't have your cake and eat it too." We've been told our whole lives what we can't do. Society has put barriers on what's possible, and we've been put into these tiny boxes, and those boxes have begun to limit our beliefs and what is possible. But one thing I love about being here is being around people who break those belief barriers. I had the opportunity to spend time with Peter and Emil in Colombia on the GRG trip. And as you guys know, they both grew up in Bulgaria, where the average income is only $3,500 a year. Yet just this past summer, Emil, from building his own business, made over $240,000. Do the math, that's almost a lifetime's salary in a year. And using these 5 steps, he has begun to change not only his own life, but the life of his family. And the BG Lions have begun to change the life of their country, just like the Estonians have. And impact leaders like Peter Petkov, who then broke the B contract record and also brought a big team, using these 5 steps. So before I dive in, a little bit about why I'm up here. I will tell you, it's not because I've had a perfect career. My career in Southwestern has been fairly smooth, but I started when I was 21, and a lot of my failures came before. When I was in college, I did a network marketing company called Vima, in which I failed miserably. I lost thousands of dollars. And I got on the phone with my mom the day that I decided to quit. I said, "Mom, I'm stopping, I'm quitting." And I didn't like quitting things. And she, like any good mother, consoled me and said, "It's okay, you paid your tuition." And I realized that she was right. Even though I had lost money, I paid money to go to college to learn. I learned lessons from those failures. I'm telling you this story because we all fail in life. You will fail throughout this process. These 5 steps, they're not just 5 steps, they're 5 building blocks. And you have to start at block 1 before you can get to block 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you will trip, you will stumble along the way. But if we can learn to have patience with ourselves, if we can learn from our mistakes and fail forward, then we can grow. I was chatting with Dustin in Colombia, and he told me that he believes you need 10 years before you can really see what your potential is. 10 years at trying something. I'm sure there's people in this room, Edgar's story, he'd agree. Emil's story, he'd agree. Yet so many people, after just a year of failure or 2 years of failure, we doubt ourselves, we give up, we move on to greener pastures. We don't have patience. We need to learn to eliminate the idea of this instant gratification of success. But when you can begin to have patience, good things begin to happen. And things begin to grow, and things begin to work. But here's the deal. Most people don't have patience. Do you think that most people live the life of their dreams? They'll tell you that they will. Very rare is it that you talk to somebody and ask them how they're doing, and they say that their life sucks. Most of the time, they come up with some sort of justification about why their situation is great, but it's not true. Most people work at building somebody else's dream. But until we learn to work on building our own dreams, somebody else is going to hire us to build theirs. But to be quite honest, it took me a long time to actually believe that I was building my own dream in Southwestern. I've had 3.5 major moments in Southwestern where I sincerely doubted my place here. I say a half because one was after my first summer, and that doesn't really count. That's pretty typical. But I remember after the first major doubt I was having, I heard Mark Rao tell a story about a farmer who grew up in a beautiful pasture. It was so beautiful that he sat in the pasture all day long, and he just sat in its beauty. But one day he noticed that the pasture was beginning to brown. And it wasn't as beautiful anymore, but instead of watering the pasture, he saw that there was a greener pasture next door. So he went over to the next pasture. And then after some time, that pasture began to brown, and then the next, and then the next. We must understand that success is our choice in any moment. So please understand that these tools that we're giving you can help you in that journey. So in summary, what we're going to discuss today are the 5 steps to business building and the 5 steps to growing yourself as a leader and impacting the world. The first step is the most basic and foundational. It's learning how to sell. Learning how to sell is the foundation of leadership. Once you learn how to sell, you need to learn how to recruit. Because how can you do something by yourself? How can you change the world by yourself? We need a team. Third, we must learn to train and develop that team. Fourth, we need to keep those great people around. And last, we need to help them do the same as us. So why sell? When I was first joining Southwestern, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. My other option was to stay in this startup company that I had helped start, and we were going to have a business accelerator through it that upcoming summer. I also was planning on studying abroad in Australia and a family vacation. And when I asked for advice on what I should do from all my friends, everybody told me that I should study abroad and I should stay in my current job. There was one person in my life that suggested I go sell books. His name's Eric Mueller, and he was one of my professors at CU. He was an entrepreneurship professor, and he's the only professor that I actually still keep in touch with. He's one of those guys that he teaches as a volunteer job. He's actually a successful business owner and gives back by teaching, so he's walked the walk. And he said that anytime somebody asks him for advice, he says, I have one answer. Learn how to sell more. You want to increase, you're having a problem in this sector? Increase revenue. People are leaving? Increase revenue. He said, that's the easiest solution to everything, to sell. So I sold because of that piece of advice. Second step is recruiting. Learning how to build a team. Elon Musk, in an interview in 2015, said that there's no such thing as a business, just pursuit of a common goal, a group of people working towards a common goal. You may not be interested in building a business. I actually think most of you are, but not everybody. That doesn't matter. To be a leader, to impact the world, we need a group of people pursuing a common goal. There's not a single one of you that I believe that wants to walk this walk alone. We need to learn how to build something, how to recruit people towards our cause. That moves into the second time that I was doubting my place in Southwestern. I'd had a couple successes in recruiting. I felt like I had gained it. But then I noticed in 1 year, actually not even 1 year, in 1 month, there was a lot of people leaving, and there were 3 DSLs that I had become quite close with that left Southwestern. And that left me doubting, because I'm thinking, I thought DSL was supposed to be the best job in the world. What the heck's going on? And for one reason or another, they had left to what they thought was a greener pasture, maybe a place they could make more money, have a better opportunity. But I've watched them over the years bounce around to different green pastures. And without going into details, as far as I know, only one has found something that he's actually happy with at the moment. We all know people who are with us in this battle and with us in an endeavor, and then they quit to go on to a greener pasture. But how does that exist? Because if we don't understand that learning how to do these steps, that these problems that we're facing in this business, it's not Southwestern's problem, it's not your life's problem, it's your problem. And they realized that when they moved on to a greener pasture. Sure, the pasture may have looked greener, but guess what was the same common denominator? Themselves. Their problems followed them. And when somebody had that conversation with me, I realized that these demons that I was facing, I had to face before I decided if I was ready to even move on. I had to face those here where there were people to support me in a structure and a system because I knew I wasn't ready to go out on my own. And we have a 160-year-old system and people that want to help us grow, and I decided I guess it was good for me to take advantage of that. The reason I believe recruiting is so important is, anybody ever seen Maslow's hierarchy of needs? So the first need, so Maslow is a famous psychologist, for those who doesn't know, and he built this hierarchy, and it's the first set of needs is pretty basic: food, shelter, water. It moves up to safety, love and belonging, esteem, and the last is self-actualization. That, paired with one of my favorite quotes from Gandhi, that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in others. If we're here to grow ourselves, if we're here to self-realize, what is the best way to do that? Through the service of others. Many of you have heard me speak about my passion and what we do in recruiting, and to be honest, it doesn't really have to do in what we do, it's why we do it. I truly believe that when we bring somebody into this business, or when we recruit somebody to be a better version of themselves and help them go through this experience, we are serving them and helping them self-realize, and in the process, discover ourselves. It's the highest calling that we can have on this earth: service of others. But once you recruit them, you got to be able to train them. Anybody who's ever recruited a team that mostly quit knows this. We must train. I had the blessing of getting to meet Spencer Hayes before he passed away. One thing I loved about this company is I realized very quickly how transparent and open it was, because as just the second summer, after finishing my second summer, I sent an email to his secretary and asked if I could meet with him, and she said, sure. I was shocked. So we had a 30-minute meeting, and in that meeting I asked him, what's the most important thing you learned in all your years of business? And he said, I realized that our duty is not to build a business. It's to build people. People will build the business. That single sentence that he said, literally in a moment, changed the course of my thinking. Up until that moment, I was such a driver, such a robot business machine, that I would steamroll over people to get a task done, and in one sentence, he changed my perspective completely. For those who never got to meet Spencer, he was raised in a poor family, raised by his grandma, but he passed away as a billionaire. He was married for 60 years to his high school sweetheart. He had the largest foreign donation to France since World War II. He founded Tom James and a handful of other companies while a sales manager in Southwestern, and he single-handedly saved Southwestern after being sold to Times Mirror. He was an incredible human being with a heart of gold, and I'm so grateful that I got to learn that lesson from him before he passed. Once we train somebody, what do we want to do? We need to keep them around because we can't build something without them. What do Ludacris, 2 Chainz, Kobe Bryant, DeMarcus Cousins, and the Jonas Brothers all have in common? They all wear patterned shirts. If you want the key to this part, take some notes. And what does that have to do with this part? Absolutely nothing. But what they do actually have in common is that my friend Sammy Udell is currently, or was at one point, their personal chef. A friend of mine from college. In fact, many of them even shout her out on Instagram. Can you go ahead and play the video?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is the one and only Ludacris, Chris Bridges, if you know me by that name. But I'm on the set of Fast and Furious right now, just to let y'all know that my girl Sammy, and this is coming from the heart, is one of the best chefs, if not the best chef that I know.
And what's interesting about this is ask any young college kid or any young business-minded person, and they would think that these connections are the key. With something like this, that is success. We don't need anything else, right? Man, she's getting shouted out on Instagram. She's actually one of those Instagram accounts that has a check mark by it. It's pretty impressive. Yet Sammy decided that she wanted to start her own business. This is her, just so you can get a picture. No, it's not going. Here we go. So this is Sammy with the Jonas Brothers, Sammy with the Marcus. So Sammy decided that she wanted to start her own business. She started a food truck. She had articles written about her. Ludacris shouted her out on Instagram. She had it all. She ended up giving up on that business a couple years ago because she never grew past one truck. And when I asked her why, she said that she was never able to keep somebody for more than 6 months to help her with the truck. She couldn't run multiple trucks at a time, and she spent every 6 months retraining a new person because she didn't know how to recruit the right people, train them, and retain them properly. Guys, this isn't something I'm just BSing you with. I know I'm sold on Southwestern, but this is the real deal here. There's evidence outside of just me speaking right now. We have to understand this isn't about just business building. This is about leadership. We must learn to lead people. Thankfully, she has begun to figure it out, and now she's building a personal chef business, which is beginning to work. The last step of this process is duplicate. This is where the magic happens. During that second time that I was having major doubts in Southwestern, I had a very impactful conversation with Ronald in one of the most holy places on earth, Dave & Buster's. And in that conversation, I asked him why he stuck around in Southwestern, because Ronald, like a handful of other people in this room, have other opportunities. He has multiple sources of income, other businesses that he owns. And up until that point, I did believe that you couldn't have your cake and eat it too, just like Chief Minister Cromwell. Yet I saw him and others like him that seemed to be able to do both. They had their cake and they were able to follow their dreams. They did Southwestern, they were a sales manager, and they did other things. And it baffled me. And I asked him how, and he said it takes 3 things: time, skills, and money. Southwestern gives you the skills and money. All you need is somebody with time. Thankfully, we learn how to recruit. So you recruit somebody with time, give them the skills and money, and boom, there's another business. It's when I began to finally realize and actually believe that if I focused on one thing, Henry once told me, our chairman once told me, don't worry about the future. If we focus on doing our best with what's right in front of us, our destiny will reveal itself. And I finally began to believe that. And it's beginning to happen for myself, which is really cool. So once more, we must learn to sell an idea or a cause or a product. We must then learn to help bring people and help them align with that idea. We must then teach them to sell that idea and sell that noble cause. We must keep them around to continue building and ultimately teach them to do the very same thing. And if you have a passion for people and building others, if you can have patience with yourself, if you can create a long-term vision, commit to it, then 5-10 years from now, you'll be looking back, just like I am, 6 years later, blown away by the life that you've created. So set a long-term vision, commit to it, have patience with yourself as you fail along the way. And through those lessons, you will learn these 5 steps, and through these 5 steps, you will change your life and you will impact the world. And for that, I sincerely thank you. And if you want to see how you can create your own vision, you can check out my website. I'm starting to do it myself. Follow me on Instagram. Let's keep the conversation going.